Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and McLean podcast. We have a lot going on today, just in our worlds behind the scenes. I am outside of my office because I'm calling a game from home coming up in like 2 hours. So that's going to be great. And Mac, all I feel like I saw from the huddle at Wake Forest was you guys looked so cold. That was the main takeaway for me.
The guys on set maybe made it look a little colder. EJ's in like an Arctic coat.
Yes.
I looked over there. He has his hood up. He's sitting like this. I'm like, it's like 45 degrees, man. It's not.
Which is cold.
It is chilly. It was supposed to be 26, so we had a nice 20-degree swing.
That's good.
In our favor there. The wind made it a little bit more cold, but it was a fun weekend. Always when we go to Deep Town, you have to hit up my main place, sweet potatoes. I can't believe that I didn't remember that when we did our mailbag episode. It's so good. Soul food, really, really good there. And then just it's a fun place to be. Love Coach Clausen and Sam Hartman and Willie P, our guy. They always take care of us when we're there. So it was a fun weekend, and the Deeks bounced back. Got a nice win. It was good to see that.
Mm-hmm. Well, we talked about this on the show on Friday, that I didn't think Wake Forest was as bad as people were saying. Sam Hartman is still a really, really, really good quarterback. Yeah. And it was nice to see him bounce back and get back on track. We will get to that game, Mac. A lot happened over the weekend. I feel like we had chaos, but without the actual results, you know, because Ohio State and Michigan both almost lost to tough, rough and tumble
TCU
Big Ten opponents.
TCU too.
Yep, TCU almost lost and probably should have. That game was crazy, but at this point, you just have to give TCU credit for continuing to win. They're just finding a way. Mm-hmm. And then South Carolina beat Tennessee, which was not just beat, stomped them.
That was awesome.
Crazy.
Can I just say, this is the only positive thing I will ever say about them. That game was nuts. Like, they played their tails off. Coach Beamer, oh my gosh. So impressive to see. And, it had to be lit. Listen, again,
it looked lit.
I'm going to say two positive things. That fan base is nuts, and playing at Willie Beamer is tough, and especially in something like that. We live about a driver away from the stadium, and Khaki and my mother-in-law, they could hear everything going on from the house. So it was intense. With that in mind, it is hate week. That's the only thing you'll ever hear me say. There will be a lot of pro Clemson, pro ACC, pro Florida State, Louisville. A lot of that this week.
Georgia Tech?
Yeah, sure.
Hey,
they got
Georgia Tech got themselves a dub.
Anything can happen.
This is the perfect transition into our first game. We want to start with this North Carolina game. Georgia Tech beats number 13 North Carolina 21-17. Mac, I thought this game was just the epitome of what you say about this sport, in that it's college football. Yeah. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. And what was crazier about this game was that UNC was up 17-0.
Yes.
If you didn't watch it, let me just tell you, UNC was up 17-0. You feel like you don't have to watch anymore. Okay, this is a wrap. Georgia Tech's just going to give up. Absolute credit to Georgia Tech for not folding in a season where they're now 5-6. They have to literally pull off a miracle and beat Georgia to get to a bowl game. So it's not like that was their sixth win.
Right.
And Drake May played probably his worst game of the year, Mac. He had a costly interception. That was a surprising development.
Yeah.
And I feel like it probably really hurt his Heisman chances.
Well, you know what's interesting, KG? I'm glad that I kind of do this. So when there's these really like weird games that happen, I go back and I watch every single play. So a lot of these games, just to kind of give you guys a peel behind the curtain, I either watched it live on Saturday and saw enough to where I kind of, we understand what happens. Or I go through and kind of watched a condensed version. Everybody can do it. It's on YouTube. Just go fly through it, kind of see the highlights if maybe you didn't get to see something. But for games like this, where I have to know. I have to know what happened. What in the world went wrong for North Carolina? What went good for Georgia Tech? And I watch play by play as if I was a player all over again and just go through all of it. And so it was very interesting, KG, because that was the perception I had too, that Drake had a bad day, that Drake did not play very well. After going through line by line, that was the most drops I've ever seen by UNC.
Well,
I mean, he's hitting guys in the face and they're dropping balls. The weird miscues, like a guy's running the wrong route, because I just have to assume, based on what I've seen from Drake all year long, that he's putting the ball where it needs to be and there's nobody there. And so it was very, very strange to kind of see that in a game that, again, we talked about how important this is and the what was on the table with the playoff and a Heisman Trophy, and the expectation is now really there, and thought there was no way there was going to be miscues, but there were so many. And so kind of just to walk through the game, just off Jump Street, there were miscues. After that 80-yard, touchdown run, weird drops. It just felt off. Drake's pocket presence was a little bit off. He didn't have any time, but his offensive line just letting guys through. They really struggled with games, with twists, with funky looks on the defensive line. Breaking news, Clemson's going to do that a ton, so I hope you figure that out or it's going to get really ugly. And then just when they were in the red zone in the first, it was 17-0. Yeah. It should have been 30-0 because they were right there 0 for 2 in the red zone to start. Didn't like the play calling, didn't like the execution. So that right away was very, very strange from what we saw from UNC. And that would compound the rest of the game. And coincidentally, that gave Georgia Tech all the confidence in the world. My man Keon White, number 6 defensive end, went absolutely crazy. 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, was disruptive all night long. That they just couldn't stop him. And with that complimentary football, Georgia Tech's offense was like, oh, shoot, we feel kind of good right now. Like, we're moving the ball a little bit after that first quarter. Our quarterback's feeling confident. Oh, we're going to do this 1-2 punch that no one has ever seen all year with Tyson Pumanshawn. And it worked, and they were feeling great, and they scored 21 unanswered, KG. It was baffling to see. There's a couple other things, but I'm going to take a little breather here and let you kind of say something about this game.
Well, I think baffling is the word. And Georgia Tech, to me, played like a team with absolutely nothing to lose. Yeah. But, again, credit to them for not just folding. UNC, I thought, played tight in the second half. A lot of those drops, to your point, Mac. And then I almost felt like the defense lost focus for UNC. Like,
that's
you're up 17-0, should be up more. And you go to halftime and you're up 17-7, I believe, and you're feeling great. Yeah. And you're thinking, all right, we're on to NC State. And that's just not the case. Drake is sacked 6 times. That was a real problem. The O-line really struggled. And then the bottom line, Mac, in terrible second half you played, you had a chance with probably your best overall player, best wide receiver, of course, in Josh Downs, on that 4th and 11. You hit him in the hands. He catches it. UNC wins. It's a close win, but it doesn't matter. You move on to the next.
It's a Heisman moment.
And he drops it.
Yeah,
you're right. It could have been a Heisman moment, and he drops it. That's also college football.
Right.
I mean, this guy is a great player, and you could tell he felt.
Oh, yeah.
I felt for him in that moment. I think everybody did. But it all could have been erased if he had caught that pass.
Yeah, it could have. And, he was banged up a little bit early in the game, went out for a couple plays or maybe a series, came back in and maybe just didn't quite look himself throughout the entirety. But like you said, I mean, that's why we play, for opportunities like that. He's caught that pass a million times and, just turned his head right as the ball's coming, turns his head. And boom, oh, my goodness. On 4th down. And that really sealed it because North Carolina, it was over. And North Carolina never got the ball back. They couldn't get a stop. They couldn't get the 4-minute offense by Georgia Tech was amazing. But there's one little sequence that I think is, I don't know how UNC fans feel. There were so many other things going on. I wasn't on Twitter looking and seeing, but there was a play that happened, a 68-yard touchdown run that was called back because of a holding. The holding, in my mind, was a horrible call because the tight end gets absolutely steamrolled. Like, he gets pancaked by the defensive end, and he's just blocking, and he's going backwards. And so, to me, it wasn't holding. They both were holding. I mean, he didn't tackle him. He pancaked him, the defensive end. It relatively would have affected the play. I mean, if he wasn't there, it would have been a tackle for loss, but there was a body. But the guy goes, and to me, that was crazy. I think it was a terrible call. I think it was a missed call that obviously would change the game. So after that, instead of a 68-yard touchdown, all the momentum in the world, the next play, sack. The play after that, forced pressure, Drake rolls out, gets maybe 1 yard, tackle, punt. Right after that, that's when the pick happens. And so the pick was really weird because it's kind of like what happened, if you remember, KG, where I said that UNC kind of lucked in, Sam Hartman kind of lucked into that pick, where a guy was just running, chasing his his player there. Josh Downs goes in motion. Georgia Tech's in man-to-man across the entire thing. Josh goes in motion across the formation. This nickel he's just screaming over. He's trying to catch Josh. As he's running, he sees the ball and just gets the – like, it was he shouldn't have been there. It's a crazy thing to look at how these plays have happened. 2 weeks in a row now, we've seen motions that create interceptions because a quarterback sees a read. It's man-to-man. This guy's wide open. There's no one there. Throws it, and then, bam, out of nowhere, this guy just happens to stumble in. So it was nuts to me. Again, unbelievable kudos and credit to Coach Key, to all these Georgia Tech guys.
Yeah.
2 AP-ranked wins, 2-0 against ranked opponents. It's baffling. And I think, honestly, that this Georgia Tech administration needs to take a hard look at this and needs to say, hey, it's an alumni. We see the results. This guy has won games. What could happen if it's his program? What could happen if we give him the keys to the car and we let him go for a full offseason and really get going? It's a cheaper route. It'll be interesting to see, what decisions are made because of this great audition he's had all year.
If he had beaten Miami, which was a weird game, and Ja'Carry Brown played, and I don't know if Georgia Tech was really ready for him.
Yeah. They
would be bowl eligible.
Right.
And if they'd beaten Virginia, that was the other game that you're looking at.
Crazy.
If they were bowl eligible, and look, a miracle could happen. They could beat Georgia, I guess. Like it's college football. Who knows?
Could you imagine?
And go to a bowl. That'd be insane. But if they were bowl eligible, I think you have a little more of a data point you can show your fan base and say, this guy has the job.
Right.
But because they're not going to make a bowl if they lose to Georgia, I think it's harder to give him the job.
I will say this, KG. There could be a miracle that happens. There's about 10 teams. There's a 10-team gap in the bowl invites and who is already bowl eligible. To get there, it would take a couple miracles and upsets. This could happen. There could be a bunch of 5-win teams that get invited to bowl games.
But would that be enough for the fan base?
It'll be fascinating. I don't know. It'll be fascinating.
Or for Jay Batt, the new athletic director.
Come on, Jay.
Keep an eye on that.
Like the letter J, not J-A-Y.
He is the letter J.
The letter J.
The letter J. That is him. Jay Batt. Okay, Mac, moving on. Clemson handled its business. Number 9, Clemson beat Miami 40-10. Mac, it really, to me...
You were at this game, right? You had a live perspective of this. Okay.
Yes, I attended. It was cold. It looked like to me that Miami...
It wasn't cold. Come on.
Mac, it was freezing. I had on my parka. I had on gloves. I brought a blanket. I had a hat.
So proud of you.
And I was still cold. But I didn't think Miami cared to be there at all.
Yeah.
That was the vibe I got, which was so fascinating because they were coming off a win where they beat Georgia Tech. And we saw the quote from Cristobal earlier in the week where he said, if you're not happy with your son's playing time, you can come pick him up.
And then somebody did. Like the 14 running back did. That happened.
Yeah.
Like he left.
Come pick him up. Take him home. But it feels like, it's just – and Miami still can make a bowl if they beat Pitt.
Right.
But it's been a very rough year, and especially when Clemson went and scored on those first 2 drives. I know Clemson struggled more in the second half, but – you're also, if you're Clemson, you're looking at an opponent that you feel like they don't even care. So it was a weird game, but Clemson, I thought, still looked good.
I absolutely agree with you. I think the start was impeccable. I mean, to go up and, running all over the place, 24 points in the first half, just really impressive the way that DJ was running the offense, getting a bunch of guys involved.
And running the ball.
Yeah, we saw creativity, ran the ball 17 times. Imagine that. So to see really what Clemson was doing was – fascinating and love the creativity, getting different guys involved, getting the tight ends involved. That's where in Clemson, I think right now with DJ is at their most dangerous. You run the ball really effectively, which they've got now a 3-headed monster running back, Kobe Pace back. I think that's really an important piece for people paying attention to this run that Clemson might go on. And also DJ. But then getting the tight ends. Like those guys are just such weapons. They're mismatches. They're big, strong guys that – put a linebacker on them, they're too slow. Put a safety or DB, they're too small. And that's what we've seen time and time again. And then if you can have a couple of receivers make some plays, down the field, you're feeling really good if you're Clemson. Defensively, I mean, these guys. Yeah. And again, I keep going back to this.
They flipped a switch.
I said I wasn't going to do it, but I'm going to do it again. It just makes you wonder why could you not have seen this against Notre Dame? Because then you're in such a different place right now.
Right.
Probably the number 3 team in the country. And it's, we're we're talking about, is Clemson winning a natty? Like, that's what we're talking about right now. Not are they going to find a way in? It's so weird. Like, why did it take a loss, for them to start playing at this level? But really, what I've seen from the linebacking core with, Trotter and Barrett Carter on the inside, putting back Simpson at his will position makes a ton of sense. 2 sacks, a forced fumble. I mean, he was playing with his hair on fire, KG. So this Clemson team in a really good spot. Fun week for them. A lot of juice in this rivalry now because of that win. And we'll talk about more of that on Friday, why I think this is actually a perfect storm for Clemson and maybe even better than before, the Gamecocks got that huge win.
I totally agree. I thought every Clemson fan should have been rooting for South Carolina last night. Now, I know a lot of Clemson fans hate to hear that, but first of all, they knocked Tennessee out of the picture, which is huge.
Massive.
Because the one-loss Tennessee was still very much involved in all this.
Absolutely.
Because they also had that win over LSU and of course Bama. But South Carolina looks like a better opponent.
Right.
And it may be fool's gold because South Carolina just lost to a Florida team that lost to Vanderbilt. Like, this team is so inconsistent.
Why can't Clemson be in the SEC East? It seems like such an easy division. Like, I know Georgia is what it is, but like, come on.
Yeah, and that would be the big game.
That would be like FSU. It's great. It's easy every time, every single other game. I'm joking. It's a great conference. Awesome.
Well, and Georgia struggled against Kentucky too, but I thought that was a best case scenario for Clemson.
Yeah.
South Carolina looks better.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe the committee will rank them because they already tried to rank South Carolina early in the year when they literally had no good wins.
Maybe.
But at least that game has a little more juice, and that's good for Clemson to get that win. Perhaps we'll see, and then beat a ranked North Carolina team. The more chaos happens, the more I still think Clemson's in the discussion, Mac. If Illinois or Maryland would have done it yesterday,
or Baylor,
that would have been
Baylor,
really interesting.
Or Baylor.
Yeah, Baylor would have helped.
It's unbelievable.
But that PI call in the Illinois-Michigan game,
it's crazy.
Interesting.
The commissioner hit a button and said, "Hey, we got
the Staples button or the Buffalo Wild Wings button.
We got to do something here." Going back to Clemson real quick before we transition, the fumbling thing is a real problem.
Five
fumbles, lost 2, 5 fumbles. That's got to change because you're going to go against a team that can take advantage of that, and it's not going to be good. We saw it against Syracuse. Didn't really matter. Clemson found a way. Saw it
almost
against
mattered.
Miami. Almost. Saw it against Miami where you put the ball on the ground 5 times. I don't know what the deal is with that. That's a really weird thing to all of a sudden kind of have problems with something like that. But something Clemson has to lock in on and really get right.
It's a good point, and it's your 2 main guys, really, in DJ and Shipley, who are having
not ideal
your fumble issues. Yes, not ideal. We kind of started with the teams that we think are the best in the league. Not saying UNC is better than Clemson. We just thought we'd start with that game because it was a little more crazy. Florida State, number 19, Florida State handles the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana, 49-17.
Rolling.
They cover.
Yeah.
Mac and I went 5-3 this week because we agreed on everything. We'll take 5-3. But man, that UNC game, that one got us for sure. And then Boston College, we'll get to that. FSU just rolled, Mac. This was what you wanted to see from FSU. They played 4 different quarterbacks.
Yeah.
They got everybody in there. Jordan Travis got to rest. And now, as I've been saying for 3 weeks, beat Florida. Beat Florida.
Don't beat
You got to do
Florida.
it. Vanderbilt can do it.
Do not beat Florida. Dismantle Florida.
Okay.
Like, destroy Florida. I mean, at the end of the day, I know it's a rivalry. You throw everything out the window, but the level that you are playing at versus the level they are playing at, it should be a steamroll, and it should be jacked up. The environment better be packed. When's that game? Let me look at the schedule real quick. What time is that game? Oh, it's night. It's Friday night. Absolutely.
Friday night.
Doak
7:30 on ABC.
Rocking. Doak better be rocking. And this is a great opportunity, again, for Florida State, the attention of the world. ABC, everybody's going to be tuned in. After Turkey Day, what are we doing? We're sitting around. We're fat. We're happy. We're sleepy. But we're going to wake up, and we're going to watch the Noles dominate. We're going to watch them dominate. So I love the running attack. I mean, just, again, to see, number one, Ward get back, have that massive run, 36 yards for a touchdown. Benson just to be the marquee guy, 16 carries, right under 100 yards. I mean, really, they just did whatever they wanted. And just to see those guys, man, continue to have their identity and play at such a high level it's incredible, what Coach has done in the short amount of time. And it's so funny, KG. I just keep remembering back to year 2 where everybody's like, fire this guy, get him out of here. And it's just, it's such a weird world that we're in.
Got to give people time.
This instant gratification. Like, let the man build his program. Now we're seeing the absolute fruits from it. And, man, they're rolling. The defense is playing at a super high level. Really it was 49-3. And then the Raging Cajuns scored 14 in the fourth quarter against the 20th string. So the margin of victory there should have been significantly better. But Florida State's rolling. Y'all will see my power rankings. You might already have if you're on social media. I've got them number 2 right now. I think they're playing as the second best team. They're
I like
so
that.
hot.
I agree.
And, man, it's fun to see these guys. I cannot wait. You need to finish against Florida. I know I'm kind of overlooking that a little bit.
Need to.
But if you could go back-to-back SEC brand teams with Florida and then another Big Ten or SEC team in a big bowl game, man, the excitement going into next year for Florida State, KG, would be through the roof, especially if a couple of really key people come back.
Correct. And you'd finish 10-3, Florida State's first 10-win season in forever. I think we all thought FSU would be better this year, Mac, but I did not think they would be knocking on the door of 10 wins.
Absolutely not.
Because of that schedule. And I saw an FSU fan tweeted at me earlier in the weekend and said, well, if FSU had stayed healthy, they would be undefeated, which I'm not sure was the injuries against Wake and NC State and Clemson that were the issues.
I don't know about that.
But
who was hurt? Who was hurt?
Yeah, I was like, well, Jordan Travis was there. I mean, Jordan Travis got hurt in the Louisville game, but he was back.
Ward was hurt, but Benson's your best running back, so I don't know about that.
Yeah. I don't know. I argue exactly
no. I argue no.
I would argue if the play call was different at NC State,
sure,
you would be looking at, perhaps a 10-win regular season. But anyway, there's a bunch of ifs with a lot of these ACC teams, and every college football team has ifs at this point in the year. Mac, another team that got a win that you and I predicted here was Louisville. Louisville beat number 24 NC State 25-10. NC State is definitely going to drop out of the rankings. MJ Morris didn't play a lot. They're dropping him. MJ Morris didn't play along with a lot of other key pieces. The injuries are really piling up for NC State. You're down to basically your fourth-string guy playing Ben Finley, the younger brother of Ryan Finley, who had some moments, but, he doesn't look like Ryan Finley at this point. Sam agrees.
She agrees.
And Louisville didn't have Malik Cunningham either, but they handled it. I tweeted this out earlier, Mac. I think Satterfield needs to get some credit for what he's done this year. With the injuries they've had,
right.
They've won 5 of their last 6. Malik Cunningham missed 2 of those games altogether. He's been beat up really throughout all of them. And he's kept this team together. I think what I was seeing from Louisville fans on Twitter was, we agree with you. We'll feel a lot better if they beat Kentucky.
Right.
Which is similar to the FSU.
Yeah, and I think it is just this – it's this weird spot because that's a missing piece, right? That's the last piece, for Coach Satterfield and this staff. Just have never done it. And it's been really bad, when they've played Kentucky in such lopsided victories. I mean, absolute blowouts. But I get that. And Coach Sweeney went through this. I mean, he absolutely did. He didn't beat South Carolina for 5 years. Maybe got it in the interim or that first year. But after that.
Well, when he was the interim, he beat him, and that's really what got him hired. Right. But then he didn't beat him from, 09 to 13.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, he dealt with it. So if you're, looking at that and think of any indication of success, I know there were some other massive bowl games. We won the ACC and went to the Orange Bowl a couple of times in that stint. But, still, you think of what he's been able to do. And, I love what you tweeted out, KG. I mean, the way that they started and just how bad the season was. I mean, fire Coach Satterfield, we even were discussing that, like, what the heck's going to happen if this continues? He's 0-3 in the league, horrible loss to a bad Boston College team. And that's where everything flipped. And that's what Keitrell Clark told us. He said, hey, look, our players rallied up. We had a players-only meeting, and it was this come-to-Jesus setting where it's like, we have to change. Like, it is on us. We're on the field. We're making things happen or not making things happen. What can we do to be better? And after that, playing at a super high level. I know the outlier with Clemson. Clemson kind of was coming off a loss, which that's not a good place to be for anybody playing them. But they've won 5 out of the last 6, playing at a super high level. One of the hotter teams in the country right now. Defense is playing at an exceptionally high level. But as you said, that next step happens this week. That next step happens Saturday when you have a massive opportunity against a Kentucky team that is not great. A Kentucky team
that lost to
Vanderbilt.
Mac, we have 2 ACC teams playing their rivals who lost to Vanderbilt.
Let me just say this, too.
This is a scary situation.
Wake Forest obliterated Vanderbilt. LSU is the SEC West champion. Just saying. Shout out to the SEC. Any day you want to do it, we can do it any day. So, yeah, I'm looking at that, KG, and I'm thinking this is the opportunity. And this is where it's like, man, you have to do it. You've got to get it done because that Kentucky offensive line has not been good. They lost so many guys from a year ago. Mm-hmm. What have you been doing really well? Sacking the quarterback. Will Levis has been sacked a billion times. What else are you really good at? Forcing turnovers. He turns the ball over all the time. You have to be who you are. Take the logo off their helmet if that's what's freaking you out. It's in Lexington. It's going to be rowdy. Go shut them up. Go settle the storm. And at the end of the day, you do that, man, rolling. And everybody is going to be back excited. Everybody's going to be juiced up and ready for the frickin' Coach of the Year awards to come to Louisville. I guarantee it. Not me. I'm saying their fans.
Well, I would say Mac Brown may have been knocked out of it. But
Mike Elko for sure was knocked out of it, and that hurts my heart.
I was going to say.
Both of our guys.
As we transition. Honestly, no, I don't think Mike Elko is knocked out of it because you still got to Duke finishing the possibility of finishing 8-4 at Duke.
Kelly, did you see how they lost the game? Let's talk about Duke right now.
Yes.
Let's talk about
I know.
Duke.
I was going to say, let's get into Duke.
They went for 2
Pitt beat Duke
when they could have been down 7. Why? Why do you go for 2? You don't get it. Then you have to go for 2 again. I hate the play.
I know.
Why did you take the ball out of Riley Leonard's hands? What are you thinking? Why giving it to Jordan
They were trying
Moore?
to get it back to him. Wasn't that? Didn't you think it was a little Philly special?
It was a Philly special, but why? Who cares? Keep it in his hands. Let him run around like crazy. And Jordan Moore had 200 yards receiving. Why didn't you get him 201? And you would have won the game. I mean, it's absolutely bonkers. And guess what? Those are coaching decisions. And so at the end of the day, if we're making Mac Brown take a backseat, Elko's right beside him. They're looking at each other like, what are we doing? What happened?
So you really think Elko should be knocked out of the Coach of the Year discussion with a 7-4, possibly 8-4 Duke because of going for 2 and then the bad play call on the next going for 2?
He lost the team.
You think he should be taken out?
He lost the team. He lost the game. First team.
Well, then who is it? Because Max said he didn't have his team prepared.
Dabo Swinney. Holler at him.
He was probably reading his headlines, listening to the podcast, hearing us call him Coach of the Year.
Give it to Norvell. Come on.
Yeah, honestly, I think that is interesting.
Honestly.
Especially if they beat Florida.
Norvell, Sweeney, Elko, Mac Brown, and maybe Satterfield, which is crazy.
This is a heated discussion.
I thought
more
it was
than
a
most
runaway,
years.
and now we're looking at 5 different people in 2 days. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
The main theme with Duke did cover, by the way. But the main theme with
that was
Pitt
free money.
Duke,
that was a horrible thing.
Yeah,
by Vegas. That was free money.
Pitt beat Duke 28-26. Mind you, Pitt is 7-4 with a game against Miami left.
Isn't it a weird feeling?
Pitt.
7-4. Isn't it a very
weird?
Because
there's a massive difference between 8-4 and 7-5. Massive difference.
And I mean, this was a team that you almost went to overtime with Tennessee, or maybe they did go to overtime. They did go to overtime.
I think it was.
They took Tennessee to overtime.
With their backup quarterback.
Which isn't as cool anymore, but it was cool for a moment.
It's still good.
But then the weird loss to Georgia Tech, that was a ranked win for them.
Georgia Tech is just, that's what they do, apparently.
Get blown out by Louisville, blown out by UNC.
Ruin the ACC.
Notre Dame and Georgia Tech. Shout out to those guys, ruining the ACC.
But to your point, Mac, Duke had so many issues that they just put upon themselves. They muffed a punt, which led to an easy Pitt score.
Yeah.
They had, in the third quarter, Riley Leonard, I forget who the wide receiver was, but hit a guy
face.
Wide open.
Touchdown.
Wide open, dropped it. It was kind of like the Josh Downs drop. And then you had the going for 2 fail, and then the second going for 2 fail. It felt like Duke was the better team, but Pitt found a way. Maybe the home field, you kind of factor that in there a little bit. It was a crazy game.
And I think, you have to give all the credit in the world to Pitt's defense. They shut down the run for Duke. They had been running at such an impressive clip. They went for a grand total of 63 yards. Pitt all day long punched him in the mouth. Riley Leonard only ran the ball 7 times for -4 yards, only was sacked.
And that was what I was worried about.
Yeah, I mean, he was sacked once, so it's not like they were bringing him down a ton, but it was just he couldn't get going anywhere. I mean, there was just nothing there. Pitt did such a good job of rallying and being around and saying, hey, we have to take away this piece, and we feel really good. But again, ultimately, drops, or special teams miscues, and then really poor coaching decisions lost you this game. And think about that with Duke for a second. UNC, Riley Leonard does everything that he can, wins the game, penalty, it's called back, they lose. Drake May goes on, marches down the field. This game, coaching decisions, some other miscues. I mean, legitimately, they should be a 9-win team right now. That's
I love all
crazy.
these ifs.
I know. What if? You're not a Marvel girl, but there's this series called What If? What if Duke was winning the national championship this year?
If?
It might could happen.
Oh, so that's what
it's like a multiverse. There's this crazy universe where other things happen.
There's also the Georgia Tech game.
Right.
Where they had every chance at
rally
the end.
by down 20, rally. I mean, a 10-win Duke team.
Crazy.
What if?
What if, Duke? What if? Well, Mac, what if Sam Hartman had played like he did against Syracuse, against NC State and Louisville and all these other teams? Wait, beat Syracuse 45 to 35.
Can we stop? Let's stop the game. Making me depressed.
I mean, but to my point though, every program's playing what if at this point, unless you're undefeated. And you're still probably thinking, if you're Michigan, well, what if Corum doesn't get hurt against Illinois? Seriously. That kind of thing. Sam Hartman was flawless. Yeah. He did not have a turnover. He was great, threw for 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards. He was excellent. The wide receivers were great. Syracuse did show some life back. They got Sean Tucker back involved. He had over a 100-yard game. They had him in the Wildcat in the red zone. Great. Okay. And Schrader had a good game. So feels like Syracuse can at least beat Boston College and finish 7-5. But it was good to see Sam Hartman, a guy that's been through a lot and has just been so much fun to watch, look like his normal self.
I'll start with Syracuse because I agree with you. It was so much fun to see that offense back and what we thought it could be all year long and maybe have some sustainability there. Schrader just somehow looked healthy, like he was moving around great. He was able to, extend plays with his legs, hit some guys downfield, really make some things happen. All the while, he didn't have his left tackle, he didn't have his left guard, didn't have his right guard. I mean, it was crazy the adversity that this Syracuse team faced, yet still somehow managed to put up 35. Maybe that's a little bit more of an indicator on Wake's defense. But just the way it happened, the way that they did it, was really impressed by that and love what we saw. Again, Garrett Schrader, Sean Tucker being the headliners there, and Rondé Gadsden doing his thing, getting back involved. But Sam Hartman is that dude. And just all the adversity that he faces, all the, sometimes bad decisions, sometimes bad luck with the interceptions, for him to really just respond and get his team out of that funk where they just couldn't win. They just couldn't win. I mean, he threw for 400 yards, they lose. He throws for 5 touchdowns, they lose. There was something that was happening where they couldn't get over the hump. He did that in prime time, a lot of people watching, a lot of eyeballs, and just at a really effective, rate there. He is 3 touchdowns away from tying the all-time leading TD passer. Taj Boyd, my boy, getting at that 107 number. He's got 2 games to do it. I have to think. I kind of cursed him against Louisville. Thought that he would pass Phillip Rivers like in the first quarter. He didn't pass him the whole game. I think he's going to get that done and own that record, which is really, really cool. Also love the fact that Wake was wide open. They ran 94 plays. They rushed it 52 times for 200 yards. That was the game plan I wanted to see from them, just because the Syracuse defense has been so susceptible to the run lately. So A.T. Perry balled out. Wake Forest looked good again. And hopefully they can build on that confidence. They play a very good Duke team next week. Can't wait to see that matchup between those 2 quarterbacks. Kind of the new guy on the street and the old head that's leaving town. It's going to be fun. This is a big weekend coming up, KG.
Duke Wake is a sneaky good game coming up. And as I said earlier, there is a massive difference between 7-5 and 8-4. And both Duke and Wake are 7-4.
Shout out to at least one of these teams
is going to win 8 games.
That's awesome. Thank the Lord it worked out that way.
One of these teams is going to win 8 games. One's going to win 7. We will see. That game is on Saturday at 3:30. Mac, 2 more games here. Let's start with the good. Virginia Tech showed some fight. Liberty did not cover, as we suggested. And Virginia Tech beats Liberty by a point, 23-22. I thought it was cool. Virginia Tech wore their orange. Yeah. Liberty wore their navy blue cool. to honor Virginia, which was great. Maybe the highlight of the season for Virginia Tech was the fake field goal. And then they're running the option with the kicker, and they pitch to the kicker, and he makes someone miss. And he gets the first down. I was like, what is happening? Crazy. That was amazing. It felt like Virginia Tech could have put them away. They were up 17-7. Yeah. They gave that crazy kick return. But in the end, this was a good sign. And honestly, you beat a pretty good team if you're Virginia Tech in Liberty.
Well, I think for starters, it was amazing to see, Virginia Tech snap that streak. I mean, just a really, bad deal that hadn't been done since the 50s. So for them to get out of that funk, going to Liberty, get that dub was great for them. The second piece, watching that game with Eddie Royal, very stressful. Very stressful. A lot of range of emotions. My guy's up. He's down. You're
like, should I be so invested in this game?
He's really, really down. He's really, really up. And, man, I'm just happy for my boy Eddie. It was so funny. Anytime that we had a Virginia Tech highlight, everybody shut up and just let Eddie have his time, have his excitement. Because it's been a while. It's been a couple months since those guys got a dub. So we got it done for Eddie. And
happy for Eddie.
Go Hokies, man. Let's get this thing rolling.
Happy for Eddie. And, we'll see. Of course, we don't know if Virginia Tech and Virginia are going to play. I would totally understand if they didn't, and this might be Virginia Tech's last game of the season. I think the Hokies would understand as well. It's good that it would be so awkward if Virginia Tech had 5 wins and needed to play Virginia. Right. So in a way, it's good that Virginia Tech is nowhere near making a bowl. We don't have to have those awkward conversations.
Absolutely.
The final game, the saddest game, the game where Mac and I, congrats, you played yourself, thinking Boston College would cover. Notre Dame goes out here and stomps BC 44-0. Emmett Morehead came back to earth. He had 2 great games, but he's still just, a youngster. He throws 3 picks.
To the same guy.
To the same guy. Notre Dame just dominated. It felt like BC, they were flying really close to the sun after beating NC State, and this was just not going to happen. We should have known better, Mac.
Benjamin Morrison, number 20, is a freshman. Terrorized Clemson. Terrorized Boston College.
A lot of people.
This guy is a beast. He had 0 picks the entire season. Plays Clemson, gets 2. Plays BC, gets 3. He's going to be the number 1 pick in the next 2 years. This guy's flying up draft boards everywhere. Notre Dame's rolling. And I don't ever like to talk about the Golden Domers because they don't want to play nice. Don't want to be in our league. I understand. Not really. But, hey, there they are. And they they physically dominated. They really did. ran the ball, did what they did, close to 300 yards. Drew Pine, game manager of the century, reminds me a lot of Jake Fromm. Kind of does enough to get a win every now and then.
Seriously.
But, 44-point dub. Could have been 100 easily. The snow made an appearance. KG, you would have physically died in the second half if you were there.
Yes, I would have.
So good thing that didn't happen a couple weeks before. Just tough scene for the Eagles. And, Moorhead, don't throw to 20. He's not on your team.
Here's the thing, though, and this is kind of my last thought. I think if you're a Clemson fan, you're rooting so hard for Notre Dame.
You're not mad. If you're a Clemson fan, you are not mad at this.
They beat North Carolina. Yeah. For the ACC, if Notre Dame could go beat Southern Cal, first of all, completely knock Southern Cal out of the picture, so that helps Clemson. And it would just make the UNC loss and the Clemson loss to Notre Dame look a lot better. So I think if you're just an ACC fan in general, weirdly, you're rooting for the team that wants nothing to do with you. Against Southern Cal, that game is Saturday, 7:30 on ABC.
Shout out to the Chickens.
That'll be interesting.
Shout out to the Golden Domers. Get it done. Clear the path for the Tigers. Do what you got to do. Great episode. That was fun. A lot of big games. Massive week ahead of us, guys. Cannot wait. Friday is going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, man.
Hate week.
This is one of the best weeks of the year.
It's my favorite week.
For sure.
It's my favorite week. This is the week where you just need 5 TVs. You're looking everywhere.
Yeah.
Maybe you're pausing. You got to look over here. You got to look over here. It's the best week. And we'll talk a little Thanksgiving on Wednesday, obviously, right before the great holiday there. A lot to be thankful for. We'll have another great guest on Wednesday as well. But Fridays are coming. Fridays are coming. It's going to be a fun one, guys. So that's it from us. Another great episode of Gramlich and McLean. Thank y'all for tuning in on YouTube. Mash that subscribe button. Really appreciate you guys every time you tune in. And, of course, the OGs over on Apple Podcasts. Greatly appreciate you over on iTunes. Rate, review, subscribe. Always great to hear from you guys over there as well. But until next time, we'll see y'all.